Hello folks, welcome back to RC Cars UK. Paddy with you here again. Thanks very much for joining me today, guys. Now today we're going to do a quick explanation and a physical representation of back EMF being generated by a DC motor. That's a brushed motor to you and me in the hobby. A DC motor is where the stator moves and the magnets are on the inside of the can. Yeah, and the rotor and stator move round it. Move round inside. And when that moves, that motor, the rotor and stator inside, so when they move, they create an electronic current that's being generated by a magnetic field. Now here, in this truck, you'll know there's one motor powering this axle here. There's also another motor powering the other axle. Now, you'll see there's no battery in this truck at the moment. It's batteryless. There's the battery connector. Yeah, so there's nothing in there at the moment to power that other motor. So you'll see here, if we spin the front motor slowly by turning the front wheels, obviously they are independent of each other, yes? So you will note that the rear wheels do not spin, obviously because I'm not turning them. But what happens if we increase the RPM of the front motor? You'll notice the RPM, the higher RPM, the faster speed basically, of the front motor is now creating a magnetic field, which is in turn supplying the second motor, now the slave motor, with current, which means, should I say, it's turning the wheels. Obviously, when we do it slowly, we can see that there is not enough of a magnetic field generated. If we do it fast, you'll note that I'm only holding the front. So how can we prove that this rear motor isn't hooked up to anything in there, that there isn't a secret drive shaft, that there isn't some sort of link going between the motors at the rear of the shafts? We can do that by disconnecting the rear motor altogether from the front one. Obviously, don't forget there's no power in here because there's no battery to supply the ESC with power and then in turn the motors to draw from. But we can see now, if we take that wire off the rear motor, even just one wire, what you will see is that phenomenon that we've just witnessed there doesn't occur. And that's because it's not hooked up to the front motor, hence no current being supplied by the front motor. So here is a physical representation of, or should I say, here is a physical manifestation of back EMF produced in front of your eyes by one motor to another one. Right, so what we can do now is you can just see the two motors in there. There's one there and there's one just sat parallel to it there, slightly behind. So if we remove one of these power wires here, which we have just so aptly done, you can see there's one wire off, the yellow wire, which I believe was the pos or neg, doesn't really matter. Right, how are we going to do this? Let's pull this up, early up. Right, so we've disconnected the rear motor. You've just witnessed me doing that. You can still see the wire hanging down there with the little plastic sort of hot glue sort of sheath on it there. It's not hot glue, it's actually silicone, but it's got a cloudy hot glue colour. But you can see it nonetheless. So our front motor is not connected to our rear motor. So if I spin this now, what you'll see, doesn't matter how fast I spin, and you'll notice it spins more freely. There is a run-on, what we call run-on. So when I let go of that, it goes whum, and slowly reduces its RPM. When the front motor is hooked up to the back one, so there's a wire going from one to the other. I must actually say, the wires aren't directly connected. The wires actually come from the ESC and fed as you normally would, yeah, on an 880T. So the back EMF is actually going back through the ESC and into the motor, but still we're producing a current for the ESC to supply the rear motor with. So that is produced, that current is all produced, 100% produced by magnetic field and current. So it's back EMF basically. EMF is basically feeding this second motor. And it always got me wondering, if you could design a generator to sit on the back of this, you could almost power this motor exclusively off the front one, but it would still need to be hooked up anyway. I wouldn't know the wiring diagram for that off by heart. But what you can see here is just a practical example of back EMF produced from 2 DC motors. Thanks very much for watching, guys.